Whoa, that episode was actually just full of emotion, jarred me up pretty big, and just had so much in it. Just, whoa, I never thought Survivor would ever be able to pull off an episode like this, and they did, totally out of the blue almost. Just, whoa, I seriously forgot that we were watching Survivor at various points. I honestly thought we were watching Big Brother, because this is the kind of thing that we see there. Just, woo. Just a very pleasant surprise to a season that's already been pretty surprising and satisfying to me so far. And if you haven't read Dalton Ross's stuff and listened to Rob Sesternino's interview with Jen, you really should. Okay, so there's absolutely nothing to discuss before the auction because there wasn't anything to begin with, really. Then as for the auction, well, it was a bit of a bummer to see most of the bids, condensed to just random stuff, because I do enjoy the dynamic of people fighting for the stuff, and then the occasional humor. It's moments that we get there like we did in Cook Islands and Cagayan, but given what else was included in the episode, I feel like it was sacrificed for a purpose, but I still find it a bummer we didn't get the real auction and a secret scene or anything like that, especially since Rodney had apparently one of those bits where he was given two items and he has to choose which one, and he apparently got the good one, at least I think, yeah. Then we've got the infamous love letter issue, and it was nice to see Shirin point out to everybody that if you have somebody win, usually everybody can purchase it for the same amount as that person, unlike Alicia in One World, who just stupidly bid $500. Just, come on, really? And now I'm somebody who when it comes to knowing loved ones on the show, is supportive of them, like rushing out and hugging their loved one and such, but recently I'm starting to wonder why people are just so gushy about the love letters, because if you really think about it, chances are you're within about 10 days of seeing your loved ones anyway, the family visit, so you can't hold out a little longer? Because I think if I was there, I honestly would be pocketing the money. Not to say that, I'm not appreciative of, say, if I was there, my parents or my brother sending me stuff, but two things. One, as I mentioned, the family challenge visit is still a possibility, and two, the money that they have at the auction, to my knowledge, they're actually allowed to keep, at least once they started using American money at the auction, so... Right. But then we get the Mike incident, and I'm just like, really, dude? That just really angered everybody, including your closest ally, Dan, for no reason, because you were already willing to draw rocks for 500, and since the other two were willing to give it up, that puts you in the same position. Just, really? And, even though you went back... You originally weren't going to, and it seemed like, according to Jen's interview with Rob Sesternino, he didn't turn around 3 seconds later. It seemed to be about 10 seconds, and 10 seconds can be like an eternity under the right circumstances, because, well, 10 seconds of me being dead air in this video, that occasionally comes close to happening, I think, while I'm trying to remember something, so it feels longer, trust me, I will know this. So... Jen made a valid point, and another thing she said in her interview, him going back, it didn't really solve anything, it just made it even more tricky. Then we've got the advantage, and this time it made sense with the rock order, because you remember Cagayan, I complained about how, since there was 2 people, you needed to determine the order, but when there was more than 2 people, you just start with whoever was closest to Jeff, and then just go down the line, it's that simple. And I was actually predicting that Carolyn would get it, but Dan getting it... Actually, I think that has potential for a lot of things to happen, because everybody has a relationship with this guy to some degree, everyone has an opinion of him, and everybody knows they're either going to need his vote at some point, or he's eventually going to be either too much of an annoyance or too much of a threat, they just get rid of him. Because he is mobile on these challenges, and he is worthy of a vote, especially since he's always talking, although not always in a good way, but then again, given these blue-collar men's behavior this season and in this episode, arguably. Right. So I'm just going to fast forward a little bit to where he actually pulls out the advantage, and turns out it's not a clue, which I honestly thought would have been stupid. It's actually he gets a second vote, which apparently is the main twist that Jeb was hyping at the beginning of the season, and apparently this isn't like Survivor is rarely, or at least the first season, where like most of the time you actually were not allowed to vote for different people. Jeff revealed he could do whatever he wants with that second vote. He can vote for two people, he can vote for the same person twice. Yeah. The only problem is, I really wish we knew when the last time it was that this advantage could be used. Now, it stands to reason that it works the same as the hidden idol, and that you can only use it to the point where there's 5 people left, because think about it. Well, actually, in Final 4, it would still make sense, because... Well, maybe they could do it in Final 4, it's just... What seems to be happening in this show is that they want Final 4 to be traditional, all or nothing, really, so, It's going to be interesting to see what he does with that, although it's definitely unfortunate that Tyler finds it in his bag next week, because to my knowledge, he doesn't have to keep that piece of cardboard, yeah. So I'm hoping that's going to be more interesting than not interesting. Then as for Will's bid after the auction, well, it was interesting that he actually got a crate of food, so arguably he got more than what those $100 were worth. Him deciding to share it with the rest of his tribe, well, it does on the surface make sense, because one, he's in alliance with all but Jen at this point, and two, at the start of the season, he did bring the bigger bag of beans, so it's just his personality shining through. Okay, fine. And then we get the bit of where everyone is like, there has to be more there. Well, I get how food will do something to your mind, but from my perspective, I'm fairly confident in saying that the producers have actually been pretty generous with you already, so come on. Really, and although it was stupid for him to leave the stick right where the box was, I mean, like, you can't remember where it is, huh? Right, and then, okay, right, he's, trying to decide whether I should discuss Mike or Sharin first. I'll do Mike. So then, after they get back from the auction, Mike unloads on Rodney because he overheard the group earlier, so there actually was something to discuss before the auction. And yeah, it was ridiculously easy how he was able to overhear them, because he wasn't even doing a spy shack or creeping through the bushes. He was just standing behind a little turd on the edge of camp, and the others are right on the other side of it. Just, oh, come on. That's almost as bad as when Rupert was talking to Jenna in All-Stars, and Jenna's like, we need to beat Robert immediately. Rupert, standing up damn straight, he turns around and Rob was right there. And he's just like, what's up? But it's just really, it's just yeah. And this time, it's not like Ronnie isn't being non-commutative, because he was being perfectly commutative. Now, you can argue that he was only discussing the possibility, which is what Tyler was suggesting, but, you know, given how he's been doing that in the past few episodes, just, you can tell that he really meant it. There's just times after you've known a person for so long and read them, you can just tell when they mean it with finality. Yeah. But it was definitely while I was looking at Mike and realizing, dude, you were in such a great position before now, but you've kind of just destroyed it. Heck, even Dan, the person that you've been with since the beginning, who chose you on day 1 to help you out, just... Yeah, geez, and it's not like you blue-collars need to, like, do any fighting, because you are officially completely in the power seats by now, especially since you got rid of Jen, so... Yeah, man, you're starting to kind of go down, one particular contestant from Big Brother 14. Don't want to spoil it for those who haven't seen that season, but yeah. And then the Will vs. Sharin debate, well, I still think it was kind of stupid for Sharin to say that bit, but like I said, And what Sierra said, food and exhaustion, it does mess up your mind, totally, I would know, because yesterday I was feeling pretty exhausted because I hadn't been drinking enough. I just could not focus on anything. But, yeah, and then just Will just crossed the line just big time with all that stuff. Because, I mean, like, okay, unloading on Shirin, you know, saying that she's a despicable person, like, how could, you think that anyone here is going to like you? It makes sense, because people get so angry at each other because either they've been backstabbed or just said a random remark about themselves and attacking their character. That happens on these reality shows all the time, but then, once Will starts to go towards outside of the game, just, oh man, that was just tough to watch. Saying that no one in America supports Shirin, really? Okay, because, like, I wasn't really much of a Shirin rooter for pretty much the entire season, but I didn't dislike her compared to tons of other people on this show and outside of this show, really? Just, and say, like, oh yeah, you don't even just have the family, and just, oh man. Just, dude, you're going down the Jervis route, although it's not exactly the same, because Jervis actually had a shot of winning for most of the season. Well, he actually hasn't had a shot at winning for most of the season. Now, if there's anyone in this game that seriously is thinking about voting for him, just, oh, please, okay? This guy's got no shot, alright? Really? Yeah. And then Shirin brings up the point of how no one's intervening except Mike, who tells her, yeah, you need to get out of here. Well, Rob's sister Nino makes a valid point. It's a totally different situation than stuff that's just, like, going on the streets, that kind of thing, because, like, well, you know, like, say me and my brother get into an argument and my dad has to separate us apart, that kind of thing happens all the time. Plus, he can tell the tone of the discussion, and he knows us like the back of his hand. Sure, these guys know each other like the back of their hand, but it's a game for $1 million that screws with your mind, and it also kind of has to deal with the people that are involved, and even though I don't really want to support Will, sometimes you do just have to get it off, you know? Just vent the frustration. It's just such a bummer, though, that he had to go so far into Shirin there, because, yeah, I felt for her, stating that she's got a tough family history. I'm like, I don't have a tough family history, but just, well... So I think I've kind of talked about this longer than I should have, so I'm sorry about that, but I don't feel like you can really avoid this discussion, you know, okay? And then, as Jen revealed to Rob's sister Nino, behind the scenes, it appeared that Mike had a big falling out with Dan and Sierra, which is one reason we see all those scenes of him, Shirin, and Jen just talking to each other in various nooks in the rocks or down at the beach, and that's kind of unfortunate because, you know, like, he had such a great alliance plan roped, thinking good ways down the line, and people, even though they don't necessarily like cooperating with him, they do like his personality and appreciate him, and now just, yeah, he's in a tough spot. Now, given how much all these people interact with each other here and on social media, because apparently Steven and Dr. Ross keep mentioning that these people actually do like each other and keep referring to themselves as the Dirty 30. Nice, but yeah, it was just a bummer to see him lose it. The mighty have fallen. He hasn't completely fallen yet, especially since he won that immunity. So Ronnie was pretty disappointed, but I don't really know if he was gonna be gone anyway. Not just because he has the idol, but just because there wasn't really that much desperation that he was gonna be voted out. Oh, yes, there was the bit at the beginning of the episode, absolutely, but it just didn't feel the same, you know? You just got the idea that everybody was sort of falling out with each other, except Sierra, but even then it only seemed to be with Mike. And as Jen revealed, she and Shirin were actually talking to Sierra for a couple of episodes now, but Sierra makes a very valid point. You're more likable than all these other people. I'm gonna stick with them and take my chances. And it makes sense. You know, you stick with the people that are less likable, and then you might get to the end. And even though this definitely isn't what Sierra is thinking, at least what I think Sierra is thinking, she's been with them the whole game, so she at least has a bit of a sure thing in that situation. And yeah, let's bring up Sierra real fast. Well, ever since she actually decided to vote out Joaquin, which in hindsight was actually the wrong decision given what's happening in the blue collar bit, she's kind of fallen down the wayside. Now, to be fair, people haven't forgotten her because Jen mentioned that she was trying to work her, and then either Mike or Dan mentioned that they're going to need to fight for her vote at some point. So it's not like she's completely forgotten, unlike Natalie Tenderelli, Purple Kelly, there was one other big one. Well, Alec from last season, and a couple of other people that you could probably drag from your memory, because as the previous episode showed about us, Jeff's comment, even though he isn't reliable at all, I don't know why I trusted him, yeah, and just casual mentions, there could actually be a purpose to Sierra, maybe not so much in a big move, just her vote could matter, because, like, Shirin from last episode, you could gradually get the feeling that her vote was going to matter, and it did, both last episode and this episode, because, I'll just tell you this right now, the reason, Mike and Shirin ended up voting for Jen was because Jen actually went up to them and said, "Vote me out, okay?" Because they're splitting the vote. So that's why she ended up getting voted out, alright? Yeah, okay. So I'm saying that I do agree with, I think, what a few people are saying, and that Sierra probably isn't going to matter that much nowadays, but we still got 3 episodes before the finale, most likely, and the finale itself, so, she could change, although it's unlikely. I agree, but given how interactive and outspoken this cast is, you know, it's really not that bad. Comparing this season to Kagaya, we've got tons of similarities. I'm enjoying them just as much, even though I am currently ranking this season below Kagayan, alright? So, sorry if you completely lost the train of thought there. And then Mike's pitch to Dan. Well, he does make very valid points, and Dan is kind of doing his own thing, even though he did stick to the alliance, but you know, he still kind of got what he wanted by siding with Rodney and the 4 people there. He may not have the best reasoning behind it, as Jen mentioned in her interview, but she absolutely hates Dan, whereas I'm actually interested in what he's going to do, even though I don't completely like him, but I don't completely dislike him. Same thing with pretty much everybody. Right. So then at Tribal, well, we just get another bit of Will vs. Shirin, and it actually confused me enough that I'm like, who's going to go? Because there's all kinds of things that could happen here. But then Carolyn doesn't decide to play her idol, which I thought was the right thing to do, because like I just didn't see her going. I honestly thought Will Shirin was more likely to go over her, to tell you the truth, but in the end, Jen gets voted out, so the last one of the no-collar young group is gone, and now we're left with these 8 people. So I'm going to actually drag this on a little longer and explain where I'm at with pretty much everybody, because in the next time on is just everybody arguing and Tyler finding the thing in Dan's bag. So, yeah, he's gone down the Jovis route, has no chance of winning. He does still have potential to get far in the game, and his vote could matter, but win? Nah, he's done with that. So yeah, well, I've kind of already sent my thoughts on her. She has gone down the wayside. I still feel like her vote's going to matter, given how interactive this group is, and we are going to hear a little more of what's in her head, but as of right now, best place she can probably get is 3rd place with no votes, although I don't think it's going to be, her spot at least, is going to be as bad as some of the other people that have gone in 3rd place with no votes, Sash and Jervis, yeah. Shirin, she's in a fight to stay alive. Likewise, she could improve given how rocky this season has been, but I'm not totally seeing it. I do think I am going to be somewhat sorry when she goes, though, unlike what I thought a few episodes back. Carolyn, she did get a little bit of a villain-esque feel this episode, but so did pretty much everybody else, so she's in the same spot. She was doing her thing along with Tyler, and Tyler, he's obviously going to find Dan's bed and try and make a couple of moves. Well, it's about time he does that, because when there's 8 people left out of an original 18 people, even though there's still tons of boots left, even though it's really just 5, you just gotta do more active roles here. So to be anxious to see what he does, even though I do feel like Carolyn still has more power over influencing people than he does, even though if there was the sneak approach, he is going to sneak farther than Carolyn. Mike, like with Shirin, he's still in a fight to stay alive. Who knows, he could sway Dan back, especially given how Dan has that vote, but the odds are definitely against that happening, so yeah, that's pretty much all I've got to say about him, although he still has the idol, so that could matter a good ways, because one hit in the Mutiny Idol can't really change the game, really. It has before this season. Rodney, he's still going off with his mouth, although he does have potential to matter more than I thought, like with Shirin. And then Dan, let's just sit back and see what he does, okay? So yeah, this was as long as my episode 7 recap, because I just had a lot to mention. So it is a bit of a down on the emotional level, but I'm still really liking this season, and hoping that I'm just going to stay interested in it as it keeps winding down. Let's hope it doesn't go down the wayside of Caramel, because, well, you know how I thought about Caramel, and I was liking it for almost the entire run, and those last few episodes just totally hurt the season. Let's just see what happens, people.